Hi. Well, good morning, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order. It's the Finance and Administration Committee and Special Meeting of the Board of Directors on Wednesday, February 15th. And ask our manager to determine.
Sure thing, Chair Houston. So we'll start with Director Williams.
Here.
Director Gray. Director Gray. Director Deere.
Here.
Director Alvarez. Director Alvarez. And Board President Houston.
Here.
All right.
We do have a quorum and the two members of the committee are here. So we'll go ahead and move forward. Any public comment?
We have no public comment here in the room. I'll check on the online platform for anyone who would like to be recognized by raising your hand in the platform. If there's a desire to make a public comment, and I do not see any hands raised. So it seems that we have no public comments at this time, Chair Houston.
All right, thank you. So any presentations today?
No presentations today.
We'll move into the action calendar, item 5A.
Okay, and so we have our acting board secretary, Desiree Quintero, who will walk us through that item and provide the recommendation. So Desiree.
Okay, so minutes for West Basin Municipal Water District. Take the action of all board meetings. Today we have the following minutes being attached for the board's consideration. Special board meeting minutes for January 30th, 2023. Special board meeting minutes for February 1st, 2023. And special board meeting minutes for February 6th, 2023. So with that recommendation that the board approve the January 30th, February 1st, and February 6th special board meeting minutes.
Okay, great, thank you. Questions or comments? Director Williams.
I'd like to approve staff's recommendation.
Okay, very good. Any comments, Director Deere?
No, thank you.
Thanks. So I would recommend it goes forward for approval by the board, and I think Director Williams concurs. Right. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, next, 5B as in boy, the fiscal year 2022-23 outreach events, and there are multiple. So I guess we could just go through all of them in one grouping.
Absolutely, and we have our Deputy Board Secretary, Hazel Vasquez, here to provide that presentation and recommendation as well. So Hazel, please.
Good morning, Director Houston, Director Williams, and any other members of the committee board that are online. I will be presenting item 5B, fiscal year 22-23 community outreach event, and this begins on page 12. I just heard you, Director Houston, say you want to just go through all of them, right? So I'll start with the first one on here, and this one is a request by Director Houston requesting consideration for West Basin Municipal Water District to sponsor El Segundo Women's Club Sock Hop fundraiser event to be held on Friday, March 10th, 2023. Dr. Houston is requesting that the board consider a $1,000 sponsorship that would grant West Basin a booth/table to distribute district information. Just to note, West Basin has not previously sponsored this event. Our next one is the 2023 Run for Education. This is a request from Director Houston for the board to consider sponsorship of the El Segundo PTA's Run for Education event that will be held on Saturday, April 22nd, 2023. At this time, Director Houston is requesting consideration for a $1,000 sponsorship that would grant West Basin an advertisement promoting district awareness. The district last sponsored this event in fiscal year 21-22 in the amount of $1,000. Our next item is for the Hawthorne Business Expo 2023. This is a request from Director Deere for the board to consider sponsorship of the City of Hawthorne's Hawthorne Business Expo 2023 event to be held on Wednesday, April 26, 2023. At this time, Director Deere is requesting the board to consider a $1,000 sponsorship that would grant West Basin a booth/table to distribute district information and an advertisement promoting district awareness. The district last sponsored this for $1,000 in fiscal year 21-22. Our fourth item is the 2023 Rock Around the Block event. This is a request from Director Houston for the board to consider sponsorship of the Weisburn Education Foundation's 2023 Rock Around the Block event, which is to be held on Saturday, April 29th, 2023. At this time, Director Houston is requesting a sponsorship of $5,000 for this event, and that would grant West Basin a booth/table to distribute district information, as well as an advertisement promoting district awareness. The district last sponsored this event for the same amount of $5,000 in fiscal year 21-22. Moving on, we have the 2023 Taste of Culver City event. This is a request from Director Houston for the board to consider sponsorship of the Culver City Education Foundation's 2023 Taste of Culver City event, which is to be held on Sunday, May 7th, 2023. At this time, Director Houston is requesting a $2,500 sponsorship that would grant West Basin an advertisement promoting district awareness. The district has not sponsored this event previously. At page 13, I have a couple more. The first one being the It's Achievable Gala. This is a request from Director Houston for the board to consider sponsorship of the Achievable Foundation's It's Achievable event to be held on Saturday, May 20th, 2023. Director Houston would like the board to consider a $2,000 sponsorship for this event that would grant West Basin an advertisement promoting district awareness. The district last sponsored this event in the amount of $5,000 in fiscal year 21-22. Our last item on this is the 21st annual Michael's Luncheon and Auction. This is a request from Director Houston for the board to consider sponsorship of Michael's Learning Place 21st annual Luncheon and Auction event, which is to be held on Saturday, May 20th, 2023. Director Houston is requesting that the board consider the sponsorship in the amount of $1,000 that would grant West Basin an advertisement for promoting district awareness. The district last sponsored this event in the amount of $1,000 in fiscal year 21-22. So with that, I can go over the recommendation, which would essentially be all the amounts I just listed out, if you would like that, or if you want to have any questions that you want to.
I have no questions. I guess any questions, Director Williams?
I don't have any questions. I'm assuming that these are all legit.
I would assume so, and I assume our staff has vetted them and
And the majority, if you see the staff report, we've sponsored in the past, so it's repeat events. I think it's just that we haven't done previously. The organizations themselves we've worked with in the past, but these events in particular, we just haven't done at all.
And if I may add, we also have the summary here that indicates that if these items are approved, that would leave us with a remaining budget of $38,500 for the community outreach events going forward.
Mr. Chair. Hello.
Director Gray, you are here. We acknowledge you. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to acknowledge my presence. I was a little late getting online. So I just want to do that, acknowledge my presence here.
Oh, thank you. We have
Thank you.
4 out of 5 here. Excellent, thank you. Okay, great. Any other questions?
No more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
This is Don
Any
here.
questions?
I have a
Go ahead,
question.
Director Deere.
Yeah, what's the Achievable Foundation? I've never heard of that.
Sure. So the Achievable Foundation is an organization, they're based in Culver City, but they actually work into also South Bay areas, including Inglewood and I think maybe even El Segundo. Correct me if I'm wrong, Hayes, they deal with folks with disabilities. Maybe you can give a little more information for a second on what they do. But by the way, Director Deere, we actually sponsored them in the past for their event. And Haza can tell you what they actually do.
Yeah, so they
Okay.
offer services to as you said, people with special needs and things of that sort. Specifically, they pair them up with, I believe it's like mentorships and things like that, other events of that sort. This particular gala will be to recognize champions in the community who have helped them with their mission. And I believe that I want to say, and I don't misquote me on this, I believe they also offer healthcare assistance for their members, so, and for the communities that they serve. But overall, it is assisting individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families.
Did you hear that, Director Deere?
Yes, I did, and thank you very much.
You're welcome, you're welcome. And then lastly, on the El Segundo Women's Club, the reason they're doing this event, their 100-year anniversary. So it's we've never much done anything with or for them in that regard. So that's a pretty awesome event, right? So anyway, okay, well, I would recommend this goes forward for approval to the board. Williams,
I concur.
excellent. Okay, thank you.
Do we need to read the recommendation or?
Would you like me
We
to
could,
read
yeah,
the
go
recommendation?
ahead and read it. Please.
So the recommendation for this item is that the board approve, number one, the El Segundo Women's Club Sock Hop event to be held on Friday, March 10th, 2023, in the total amount of $1,000. Number two, the El Segundo PTA Run for Education event to be held on Saturday, April 22nd, 2023, the total amount of $2,500. Number three, the City of Hawthorne Business Expo 2023 event to be held on Wednesday, April 26, 2023, in the total amount of $1,000. Number four, the Wiseburn Education Foundation 2023 Rock Around the Block event to be held on Saturday, April 29th, 2023, in the total amount of $5,000. Number five, the Culver City Education Foundation Taste of Culver City event to be held on Sunday, May 7th, 2023, in the total amount of $1,000. Number six, the Achievable Foundation is Achievable Gala event to be held on Saturday, May 20th, 2023, in the total amount of $1,000. And lastly, number seven, the Michaels Learning Place 21st Annual Luncheon and Auction event to be held on Saturday, May 20th, 2023, in the total amount of $1,000.
Thank you, David. So with that, we recommend it moves forward to the board. For approval.
Thank you.
Great, let's move on to item 5. For fiscal year 2022-23 district sponsorship request.
Okay, and we have two items that are being recommended, and Hazel will provide the report out and recommendation for those two sponsorships as well. So thank you, Hazel.
Continuing on here for item 5C, this is on packet page 62. We do have two items, as Greg mentioned. The first one is the BizFed Institute Next Up Water Forum. This event is set to be held on Friday, March 24th, 2023. We did receive the request directly from the organizer, and we have a few sponsorship levels that are available for your review. The first one being a title sponsorship in the amount of $25,000, a presenting sponsorship in the amount of $15,000, an impact sponsorship in the amount of $7,500, a community sponsorship in the amount of $5,000, and a grassroots sponsorship in the amount of $25,000. There are additional details for this in the packet and information that they provided, and that begins on packet page 64. If you would like to take a look. And would you like me to go on to the next one, or did you want to discuss this?
Let's look at this one first.
We'll look at this one first real quick.
And who's what staff members is presenting this?
Yes,
Okay.
this item, that's fine.
Okay.
So I can make the recommendation for this one, since we do have a recommended dollar amount. We are recommending that the board consider sponsoring the BizFed Institute's Next Up Water Forum to be held on Friday, March 24th, 2023, in the amount of $5,000, which would put us in the community sponsorship level.
So who attends this BizFed on a regular basis? I don't, so I don't know what's going on.
I'll speak to it real quick. So we're members of BizFed, and I usually attend on behalf of the agency. And now I'm also on their board of directors as well. But separately, my understanding with this event, we've never been asked, I don't think, to sponsor this before. But this year, Metropolitan is the title sponsor at that $25,000 level, and this event will be held at Metropolitan. And so it's going to be, the types of folks who are attending are going to be business, water people, probably a number of nonprofit stakeholders too. So that's my understanding. I'm even looking at this, they have speakers from, of course, they have speakers from Metropolitan, from Wade Crowfoot might be a speaker. Looks like they're trying to work on that. DWP, Pacific Institute, so they deal with water, right, in Northern California, early irrigation district. So it looks like a pretty broad coalition and some private sector partners. So it looks like a pretty robust group of participants.
But what is the benefit to West Basin?
I think the benefit to West Basin is that they are hosting a major water forum in downtown LA that there's going to cover a number of things such as smart water management, the future of water innovation, new technology. Apparently they've done this last year. We did not participate. I think maybe Director Gray participated or something through Met, but I don't know that as fact.
We do, by the way, President Houston, have Kevin Harbour. He's the president of BizFed Institute. He is in the meeting at the moment. So if we had any particular questions, he may be able to address. He is on the call.
Oh, okay. Would you like?
Yeah, why not?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, I have some questions before you let him speak, if I can ask questions.
Of course you may,
Yeah.
Director Gray. Go ahead, Director
Thank
Gray.
you. Thank you.
Sorry, Director.
BizFed did have this event at Metropolitan, I believe, last year, and I was one of their speakers, and it is a very educational forum. I also have chaired the water committee for BizFed, and I think representing Metropolitan. But it is a very good forum. I'm glad to hear that they're doing it this year. But my question is, with the level of requests for sponsorship, and I don't have the information in front of me, what is the $5,000? What is that? I heard Director Chair Houston mention that Met was a title sponsor. So are they sponsoring it at the $5,000 level?
Director Gray, this is Director Houston. No, actually, Met is sponsoring at the highest level, which is $25,000.
Right.
And they're hosting it downtown. Now, we are looking at a $5,000 sponsorship, which is the next to the lowest amount that would give us a logo placement on their sponsored video, a logo placement on their promotional materials, and one dedicated social media post. So it is the next to the least amount they're asking. Personally, I think that's a reasonable one, but yeah, Metropolitan is sponsoring at the $25,000 level, which I would not think we would entertain that high a level. But go ahead,
Well,
Director Gray.
Yeah. BizFed is obviously an organization that has a number of businesses throughout our district. When I say our district, I'm really talking about Metropolitan, which includes West Basin. And it's a well-known organization that's been around for a while, and I've been a part of it for a number of years. So I certainly support the organization. I think that it can benefit West Basin because of its reach in the communities. And if they're giving us that level of sponsorship or those things for that level of sponsorship, I think the benefit is really educating people about West Basin and certainly about water issues and certainly our priorities and so forth. So I do recommend that we sponsor it. Now, one last question. What is the $2,500 sponsorship level? What do we get there?
For $2,500, we only get two things instead of three. We would get our written logo placement on a sponsored video. So Yeah, written logo placement, sponsor video, and also a logo placement on the promotional materials. So we just don't get a dedicated social media post.
Social media. And social media is very important, and everyone knows that nowadays. So that's an important element, I believe. Now, by sponsoring it, if that's what the board decides, does that mean that we are able to attend this event? I don't recall last year if anyone was restricted and who was kind of invited. I don't remember, but I think that's important because if we do, any of our board members who would like to attend should be allowed to attend, especially as a sponsor. So again, I support the request because I've been involved with BizFed, and I think they have a great reach in the community, and those elements that would be part of our sponsorship, I do think it would be beneficial in terms of getting the word out about what we do at West Basin. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Gray. And I did see that Kevin had his hand up, so he could opine on that. I think the number one question, Kevin, was would all of the board members of West Basin be welcome to attend this event if we sponsor?
Thank you. And yes, absolutely. You're not only invited, we'd love to have you. We had a great forum last year, and we're looking forward to continue moving the needle forward to pick up on discussions. The leadership from different regional stakeholders will be present. And I really believe that there will be a tremendous value, especially when we talk about smart water management and the future of water innovation. And also, the board president, Scott Houston, is going to be one of the panelists. So it would be great for you to support him in that as well. And Director Gray, great to see you again. Thank you for your support and recommendation.
Very good. Thank you, Kevin. Any other questions for Kevin?
Question asked and answered. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Director Deere, do you have any questions?
No, oh, thank you.
Great. Any last questions, Director Gray?
No, thank you. Thank you.
Great, and thank you for your comments too. All right, so with that, I would recommend it moves forward for approval at this level to the board.
And I concur.
Director Williams concurs. So thank you, Kevin, for being here. We appreciate that. And Hazel, thank you for your report. And so we've taken it in two parts. So go ahead to the next one.
So I have the next item on the same packet, page 62. For the Aqua 2023 Spring Conference, the district has received a sponsorship request from Aqua for the 2023 Spring Conference that is to be held Tuesday through Thursday, May 9th through the 11th, 2023. In fiscal year 21-22, West Basin sponsored this event at the gold level in the amount of $6,500. We do have a few tiers here that you can take a look at. We have the diamond tier at $15,000, platinum at $10,000, gold at $6,500, silver at $3,000, and bronze at $1,000. To read the recommendation, the board staff is recommending that the board consider sponsoring the Aqua 2023 Spring Conference to be held Tuesday through Thursday, May 9th through 11th, 2023, in the amount of $1,000.
Thank you. Questions?
Yeah, where's this conference going to be held?
Ray.
Yeah.
Is it anybody know?
All right.
Monterey? Okay, it's Monterey.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
I move this to the board.
very good. Other questions or comments, Director Gray or Director Deere?
Well, just a comment, if I would.
Go ahead.
I think the board may know or just remind the board that I am representing West Basin on the Aqua board, and certainly I support the recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Deere, anything?
No, oh, thank you.
Thank you. And Hayes, I think you already read the recommendation, right? Okay, and then the other thing of note is, as far as our overall budget, if these got approved, we have a $55,000 budget for these district sponsorships, and if both of these went through, if I'm reading this properly, we would be still at 19,250, right?
Correct.
So we are, we are really within our means. And I also note that we have been pretty, we've really been a little conservative on some of these sponsorships, especially, for example, Aqua Spring Conference. So I think that staff and the board were being pretty judicious here, so just a thought to comment. With that, I would recommend it moves forward to approval by the board, and I think Director Williams already said the same. So we are good to go.
To go.
Cool. All right. Thank you very much, and thank you, Haza, for reading through all of this. With that, we will move forward to item 5D as in the dog, ratification of additional conference and travel expenditures for Division 4. Go ahead.
Okay. And I'll cue this one up. This is on packet page 77. And this is an accounting process that we've done in the past where travel budget expenditures have been exceeded. And so being able to allow the board to have a chance to consider allowing for that expenditure or that exceedance to be covered by the district. And so this is consistent with the district's past practices. And so specifically here, we have an overage for Division 4. And so let me bear with me here. Let me just read the summary. West Basin's admin code incorporates matters pertaining to the administration of our district. And in this case, the admin code ensures that the board approved policies are adhered to. Actual charges for conference and travel for fiscal year 22-23 indicate that the Division 4 has exceeded the budget cap of $15,000 per division by an incremental amount of $350.19. And so per admin code section 2-1.306M, the board will need to ratify the additional expenditures for Division 4 in the same amounts. So with that, allow me to read the recommendation that the board consider ratifying the additional expenditures spent above the allowable cap of $15,000 per fiscal year for Division 4 in the amount of $350.19.
Good. Any questions or comments? Want to recommend it for approval?
I'll move staff's recommendation.
Very good. Okay, and I would concur. Any other questions or comments? With that, oh, I'm listening to it. I don't hear any. So you read the recommendation, right?
I did.
Great, thank you very much. So with that, we'll just move forward to the board with their recommendation.
Here, Chair Houston, can I ask one question? I was trying to get off the mute. That budget is for the end of June, right? Is that the budget we're talking about, the amount?
Yes, the fiscal year end of June
Right,
30th. Yeah,
okay, thank you.
yes, no problem. Okay. So we'll go ahead and recommend it. The board goes for approval.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay. All right, now that we have some of the more administrative items out of the way, let's get into things the policy stuff that we really like to talk about. So let's go ahead and item 5E as an Edward. We have a resolution to discuss. Go ahead.
Okay, and so we've had quite a bit of discussion with our board about our swap policy and steps moving forward. And so there was a request by the board in the recent board meeting dealing with our swap policy. And so we have our executive manager of finance, Margaret Moja, here to provide the response to that request and the recommendation responses to that same request. Margaret?
Yes, and I can now say good afternoon to you. Good afternoon. I am on packet page 80 for your reference, and this item is a follow-up to a discussion that was held at the January 23rd, 2023 regular board meeting. At that meeting, there were two items of discussion relating to the swap. First was the discussion around the termination of our swap if the conditions are met as set forth by that resolution at that time. Subsequent to that discussion, let me first state that the board did sort of approve that resolution that, again, if we are in a position to be able to terminate that swap, we would do so. So based off of that input, when we got to the item about our regular updates as it relates to our financial policies, we had a number of policies there for the board's consideration of edits, if you will, to the existing policies to make sure that we're following best practices and other needs that are there. It was at that time that the board had indicated that if we're no longer going to have a swap, we don't then need a policy. And so they had voted not to move forward with the recommendations on the policy and rather to delete the policy. However, any action relating to policies that are within the administrative code must be done so by a resolution. As such, that the resolution that was presented in January was about changes to the swap policy, not about the deletion of the policy. So we are here today to ask for the proper removal, if you will, of the swap policy per board's direction so that we can, again, remove that from that. So with that said, I'll go to page, sorry, I'm on the wrong page, hold on, 81. And 81, if I go to the recommendation there, if I could read that recommendation for you, is that the board consider approving resolution 02231190, a resolution of the Board of Directors of West Basin Water District amending resolution 011612, administrative code regarding swap policy. And that swap policy is shown on page 82. This has been prepared by district council, and on there it does state that number 2, again on page 82, it does say that the part 4, chapter 1, article 5 of resolution 0116121024 is hereby rescinded and deleted in its entirety. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Margaret. Any questions? Director Williams?
Yeah, well, I think this should go forward to the board without a recommendation from this committee. And so that we have the full hearing one time there before the board, and the individual who brought all of this up would be there to speak to it.
Yeah. It up again on the board meeting on the 27th.
Very good. Any other questions or comments from Director Gray or Director Deere?
Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you both. And I heard Margaret say that the council together, so we know that they're on board with this, the language, et cetera. So with what Director Williams said, I'll just concur with him unless, you have something else.
Oh, just one
Go
other
ahead.
thing. I noticed that the language approved as to form by the council is not on here. I was just wondering, we're kind of like inconsistent with that language on our docs.
I'm sorry, where are you referring to?
Would be, I guess it would be on page 82 of the resolution that it would have, I thought this document was approved as to form, signed by the council.
I will say historically, we have not seen that language on our resolutions.
Okay. Well, I think you ought to look at it because where do we put that language then? Only on what?
I can follow up with district council.
Thank you.
She's gonna follow, but I think it's more like on contracts, things like that.
That is correct. that our district council does sign as to form on district agreements, but as to resolutions, all district resolutions are reviewed or prepared by district council and then brought to the board for their review and consideration.
Store contracts.
Again, on our contracts, we have a template that we work with our board, with our district council as to what is the template that we would send out on any solicitation that we do so that it is to form. And those are, again, acknowledged there. But your point is a good one, Director Williams, and I'm happy to have that conversation with district council too.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Very good. So any last questions out there? Hearing none, I will just, I'm okay with this, but I will concur with Director Williams. We'll just send it to the board. There's no recommendation, so it can be on the action calendar of the board meeting.
Thank you.
The full panel can make our decision. There you go. All right, thank you. Thank you, Director Williams. Okay, next item, Greg, is item 5F, is in Frank. Go ahead.
So this is our award agreement for cost of service consultant. And at this time, I'm asking the board chair to allow me to pull this off the agenda. It's come to my attention that some additional internal discussions are necessary. And so with that, we're not quite ready to provide this for board consideration. And so I'd like to remove this from the agenda at this time.
Issue with that. So thank you, Greg. Okay. Next item, we're going to move to information calendar. So 6A, our workforce diversity report.
Thank you for this one. Chair Houston, we have Elisa Fidelio, our human resources analyst, prepared to present the annual report for the board's consideration.
Good morning, Chair Houston and members of the board. I'm here to present item 6A on page 109, the Workforce Diversity Report. So in accordance with the West Basin Strategic Business Plan, the Human Resources Department is presenting the 2023 Workforce Diversity Report, which reflects the demographic breakdown of the district by race, gender, and occupations of all 48 West Basin employees. In this report, we compare our demographics to all of Los Angeles County. The information regarding LA County derives from the U.S. Census Bureau 2021 American Community Survey, which is the primary source for producing population and demographic information about America's changing population, housing, and workforce. Just so you are aware, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the EEOC, is responsible for enforcing federal laws that make it illegal for any kind of discrimination because of race, color, religion, gender, sex, national origin, age, disability, or genetic information. Also, the EEOC collects workforce data from employers with more than 100 employees. But since West Basin doesn't fall under that requirement, we provide this report to the board as a courtesy so that you are aware of the demographics of the district and how we compare with our county. Further, reporting of this data demonstrates West Basin's dedication to promoting diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility as a West Basin core value. Identifying these metrics help to provide a measure of progress in these efforts. So if you would like, please turn to page 111. This is the actual workforce diversity report. It demonstrates the occupational categories that West Basin applies to. We have the management, business, and finance professionals, computer engineering and science professionals, and the administrative reports, and then gender as well as the ethnicities. And then if you look at the data below, that is consistent with the LA County numbers. So for West Basin, the management, business, and finance professionals, we have 37.5% male represented versus 62.5% female, with a ethnicity breakdown of 9 Caucasians, 3 African Americans, 6 Hispanics, and 6 Asians, Pacific Islanders. And in the computer engineering and science professionals, we have 63.16% male representation and 36.84% female representation. And within that demographics, we have the breakdown of ethnicities as follows: 8 Caucasians, 0 African American, 8 Hispanics, and 3 Asian. And then moving forward to the administrative support, we have 20% male representation versus 80% female representation, with 0 Caucasian, 0 African American, 3 Hispanic, and 2 Asian Pacific Islanders. So overall, total demographics for the West Basin is 45.83% male and 54.17% female, with the overall numbers in the ethnicities at 17 Caucasians, 3 African American, 17 Hispanic, and 11 Asian Pacific Islanders. And if you move down, again, the numbers represented for LA County, again, in comparisons, we did do the management, business, and financial professionals, computer engineers, and the administrative support, and then also gender. In correlation to this report, there's also a PowerPoint on pages 112 through 117. And if we just go to page 114, this will show you the gender breakdown between West Basin and LA County. If you could bring it up a little bit more. So you could have a visual of the demographics of male versus female of what West Basin has and what LA County consists of. And then if you scroll down to page 117, again, this will be the comparisons in regards to ethnicity or racial background against what West Basin has to LA County. And that concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
Great, thank you very much. Are there any questions? Start with Director Williams.
No, thank you.
Director Gray?
Yeah. Excuse me. Just comments, I guess, regarding it, and thank you for the report on that. I know the board has had a discussion about DE&I, and I heard the numbers this morning, but I hope our focus is making sure that we do as much outreach as we can in those communities that have not been aware of opportunities at West Basin. I know we can't look at numbers in terms of bringing in people, but I hope that the focus of this board and the sentiment of this board is really to have a diverse workforce that includes those that have not had the opportunity to be a part of the water industry. And I think there's been some discussion about training and helping those who need help in terms of applying for jobs and so forth in the water industry. But I hope that the effort on behalf of the general manager and this board is really to make our workforce as diverse as it can and give others in the community that have not had the opportunity to do so to be a part of West Basin family. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director Gray. Any other questions or comments? No, I would say thank you for this report, and also I believe Director Gray is accurate that we have talked obviously quite a bit at length over the years of how we continue to make sure we have the most diverse pool of candidates for jobs here at the district. I think the numbers for the most part reflect we are in line with the county. There's probably some areas that we can continue to do better on, but we also are very small.
That's the problem.
48 employees. Obviously, we have a fairly nice mix though of people and we actually are we're more than flipped on females versus males, you know, in some of our, especially on the management side. And even just in accounting in general, there's more men working versus women, and out here, there's more women than men. So, probably like everything else, we always have more we can do, but I know we're tracking well from what I'm seeing. You want to?
In regards to recruitment, we do try to cast the net very wide. Since Greg has come aboard, he has asked us to cast that net even wider. So, you know, we're reaching out towards the East Coast to HBCUs, which is historic Black universities and colleges. And then we're also trying to cast further out to more of the associations like the Black engineers, the Asian engineers, STEM type programs, women in engineering, and so forth and so on. So Greg has brought to our attention that we need to be more broad as far as where we post our jobs to make sure that we capture everybody, whether, you know, regardless of ethnicity, gender, or whatever. Try to cast that net much wider than we have in the past.
Mr. Chair, may I make another comment?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, and thank you for that information. My only recommendation, suggestion is that you cast the net wider in terms of underserved communities. I know that people have to be educated and trained in whatever to do certain jobs, but when I say opportunities, it does include what you just shared, but look at underserved communities at least. Give them the information that there are some jobs that maybe they can consider, and they have to go back to school, they have to do some training, whatever, and maybe the employment is in the future. But to reach out to these communities, underserved communities that may not be aware that there are those opportunities, and this is what you need to do to prepare for them. And so I suggest that in even the schools and the junior colleges or whatever that are in those underserved communities. So that's also my recommendation, suggestion to the general manager. Thank you.
Thank you for that suggestion, Director Gray. And that's consistent with the discussion we had in the DEIA workshop and the various opportunities for us to broaden the reach to the underserved communities. And so we are going to be having more discussions with the board about developing those programs as a part of our budgetary discussions to make sure that we are empowered with the resources necessary to accomplish the goals that are being set forth by the board. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I would just like to make one last comment,
Director Williams.
and that has to do with the numbers and recognizing that for example, the group that I represent, which is the Black male, that we aren't large enough of an organization to hire a bunch of folks. But we do spend a lot of money hiring consultants. And we have made millionaires out of these consultants that we hire. We should be looking at them as well as to see what they are doing to help level the playing field. So I would certainly encourage the general manager and whoever else is involved in contracts to look at what our consultants are doing. Because you look at, we make millionaires out of these guys. And we've been doing this for many, many, many years. And we'll be doing that in the years to come, as long as we are doing the work that we do. That's where the opportunity is. is we don't do it. We don't have that capacity because we're a small organization, but we still do the work. But we have the work that needs that kind of support. So we should be making sure that the folks that we are helping become millionaires are helping in our communities as well in that way. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment, Director Williams. That certainly is also consistent with the discussions that we had in the DEIA workshop. And certainly, as we look at both internal hiring, which the demographics that are on display today, as well as our outsourcing, which you're referring to right now, are all reflective of what I think the board had expressed in the DEI workshop, is that it would be a core value of the district and it should be throughout all that we do. And so everything you're saying is certainly consistent with those discussions in that DEI workshop. So thank you for that. And certainly we'll have to look at our supply chain practices in a manner that's consistent with the state constitution, in particular Proposition 209 that passed, several years ago, to make sure that we're not running afoul of that, but also making sure that, our hiring practices, both internally and externally, embrace DEIA as best as we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Thank you for that report. Excellent. All right, let's move into the next item, which is 6B as in boy, the quarterly debt and swap report.
Okay, and we have our senior accountant, Wendy Nakamura, who will provide us this quarterly report. So Wendy, thank you for being here with us, and please take her away.
Thank you, Greg. Good afternoon, Chairman Houston, members of the committee. I will cover the material in your package from page 118 to 126. As requested by West Basin's current debt and swap policy, reading the debt and swap report to you on a quarterly basis. Please turn to page 121. On this page, as of December 31st, 2022, West Basin has 186 million outstanding debt. The number 20 million below that is West Basin will be paying off interest plus the principal in fiscal year 2023. There's no current refunding opportunity. Now please turn to page 124. West Basin only have one swap outstanding. The market value is negative $163,000. The remaining life of this swap as of December 31st, 2022 is 2.65 years, which is shown on page 125. That concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any question you have.
No, thank you.
Any questions from Director Gray or Director Deere?
No, thank you.
No, thanks.
Thank you very much. And I do not have any questions either. So thank you for that report. All right, let's move into the next one, which is 6C, CAT, fiscal year 2023-24 budget process and schedule.
Okay, and we have our executive manager, Margaret, to walk us through the revision to the budget process as requested by the board in the January regular board meeting. And so thank you, Margaret, for being responsive to the board's request. And so we're here today to present the response and the adjustments to the schedule.
Okay, what page are we on?
You're on page 127.
Thank you, go ahead.
Absolutely. So as you know, we've been discussing the budget process for the last few months. We began in December outlining a series of workshops that would talk about policy level discussions, bringing forth the numbers that represent, if you will, what it would look like for fiscal year 23-24 with a preview, if you will, what we think is the forecast for the following 5 years. But since that time, we've had some additional discussions with the board, including at the December board meeting, as well as the special board meeting on February 1st, 2023 was the last time we spoke about it, indicating that perhaps we can have less workshops and we can maybe switch the focus of those workshops that are there. So turning your attention again to 127 at the bottom of the page, we are presenting you with yet another approach. And again, we look forward to your input because we want to make sure we're meeting your needs to give you the information that is necessary for you to consider not only the adoption of the fiscal year 23-24 budget, but also the associated rates and charges to support the activities, programs, and projects that the district has. So on page 127 at the bottom, using the existing dates that have already been, I'll say, secured with the board as being available dates to talk about the budget, we left those dates in place with the times associated with it, but we did change, if you will, the order and how we would present the information. So with the March 15th workshop, we are going to provide you that high-level view of the operating revenues and expenses, as well as the anticipated capital expenditures, with some sensitivity analysis specifically around rates as well as water sales. If you recall that there are 3 main drivers, if you will, to the budget. One is those revenues that you see that are generated from the rates that we establish. Some of those rates are passed through from Metropolitan Water District, and then there are others that are borne, if you will, or determined by West Basin. Second is those water sales that you see there. And so we want to see, with the ongoing discussion around the drought conditions and while things have maybe somewhat have improved, we never can be certain about what that response may be in the future years. And so we certainly want to be mindful, and we do believe that sensitivity analysis around that will be helpful for us. Because ultimately in the end, it's those rates times those acre feet that gives us the revenues. And revenues do generate about 90% of the revenues, overall revenues to the district. The next maybe significant item that is there is the capital expenditures, and certainly having that conversation around the investment into our facilities, what level of support we want to do that certainly will drive it. And actually, I just thought of a final one, which is actually around your financial metrics. The district does have policy that does stipulate what our metrics are as far as debt coverage. We also look at cash availabilities to ensure that we have the cash on hand, to ensure that if any sort of circumstances happen, that we would be ready to meet those challenges and to have the funds available. So again, March 15th, kind of sharing the numbers with you, provide you a good overview. We can certainly provide a sort of supporting documentation is the details associated with it. But the intent of the going over the details of the underlying assumptions there is that next workshop, which you will see on page 128. Again, using the existing date that we had secured with the board is April 12th. And that's where we would go through those underlying assumptions. So that's where we can get in perhaps some more detailed conversations with the board relating to the policy level conversations that I've just shared with you. Again, it is understanding how and where the board wants us to be with water sales. How much, are we going to invest into conservation or other kind of messaging? Because certainly that will have a cost to us, but then we'll have a cascading revenue impact to us in future years, where if we tell people to stop watering and change out their lawns, may not have an immediate impact to us, but it will certainly have a future impact to us. And then we have our our May 3rd workshop, and we use that as our sort of remaining sort of workshop there. And if there are others that are needed, we're certainly happy to have that with the board. But this May 3rd workshop is there to provide any additional input from the board, any customers or public that may have an interest in being able to provide some final input to us before we are presenting then the final budget and the resolution of the water rates and charges for the board's consideration. Again, we can certainly be ready to submit, if you will, the final budget document and rates, if you will, at the May board meeting. Or again, if the board needs additional time, we then have additional time to do so and bring that forth in June. Certainly, we'd like it in place before July 1st, 2023. I will just say that while we are not required to have a budget, as perhaps some cities may be, it is best practices that we do, and it's best way for us to communicate the projects, activities, and programs that the district has, and how we are going about to support the district's mission to meet the needs of our district constituents. So with that, again, this is intended to be a discussion item with the board to see if there's any additional input on how we should approach the budget, because we are looking forward to sharing that with you and engaging with you to make sure that we're meeting the needs, that the 48 strong, as I say here at the district, are able to meet the needs districts has for the mission.
Thank you very much, Margaret. So I'll open up any questions or comments. I'll start with Director Williams.
Just quickly, some people have accused us of not being transparent, which is kind of nuts, but they do. So are we going to be doing anything special to get the word out to our constituents and our ratepayers about our meetings, our open meetings?
Let me thank you for that question. Yes, we have talked about that as well. Certainly, as we think about it, I'll say maybe even perhaps let me just say for myself, I think about it from a staff perspective. Our customers are the 9 customers that we serve, our water retailers, if you will. But you're right, we have the public that also may have an interest in how we do this. And yes, it could be through the water retailers, but certainly they might have an express interest. So like we have done in past years, we will have a dedicated page within the finance, on the district website under the finance tab, that will outline what is the budget schedule. And then when we do have those presentations and the recording from those presentations, we will have it on our website. We can certainly maybe have a front page presence when we're getting to some decision points, if you will. We can work with the communications department on that. But also working with the manager of communications, we talked about social media posts to talk about when those workshops are. We've also talked about making sure that once we've got this schedule confirmed, that we would send out a notice to our water retailers so that they are aware and that they can engage into the process, as well as we would also have conversations with the West Basin Water Association. So again, that they would have a note there. So we're ready to, meet those things. We're ready to issue that letter, put those social posts out there, and invite ourselves to participate in the West Basin Water Association meetings. So if there are additional ways that you'd like us to communicate this information out there, we're happy to work with our communications department to do so.
Because, for customers, dollar folks to pay us directly are very important to us. Then we wouldn't be in business. But there's another group that's very important to us called our constituents. We wouldn't be here without them caring about us and believing that we do good work. We wouldn't be here without them. So we need to make sure that we are touching them as well in a big way.
And again, I think through social media posts, I think, you mentioned a number of items that's where we're out in the community. And I know that there are other places where we're out in the community. Certainly we can work with the communications department to make note of that. So if people have interest in that, that they can participate either in person or online.
Great, thank you. I say Director Gray, any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you, and Director Gear.
Yes, I agree entirely with Director Williams. Thank you.
Okay, all righty. Let's see, I will say I I think it's good we've gotten down to maybe 3 workshops to start, and if we need to add something or tweak it, we can. We got time in there. The one thing is, and I know you put these dates on here that were, I think we had already cleared these, but April 12th, 3 to 5, was the ENO committee meeting still on April 12th, or is that going to get moved? Or did I not fix something on my calendar? Maybe I have it wrong. What was that?
Right now, it was just confirmed he would like to keep it the same date and time.
Oh, okay. So ENO still at 4 o'clock on April 12th? Right now, there's a conflict.
Right, and I know that a meeting, internal meeting invite had gone to confirm that date, but if the committee is going to meet at the same time, I was worried about that too. So we would certainly need to poll the board and check your availability to have a discussion, you know, a week later or something that may work. And also too, I would also comment that if we are going to be going through the underlying assumptions, just based off of last year's, there's several hours.
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
And so we may need to start earlier in the day so that we were able to, or just acknowledge the fact that it could be greater than 2 hours of conversation.
Let's see, one last thing on this too, is that when's the customer workshop scheduled? Because that's already, you guys sort of had that already scheduled.
Well, we have not officially put that out there because we knew that we were still having a discussion with you about the budget process. So once we are able to sort of solidify the schedule with the board, then we're happy to come in. But typically, we want to make sure that we're sharing that information with you first, receiving your input before we're meeting with the customers. But I would recommend that we would do it somewhere in the April timeframe so that they have an opportunity to incorporate changes, if any, into their own budgeting process.
Okay. Last thing that I'll say, because I think really tagging along with what Director Williams said, once we do figure the dates out as a board, I think it's good we reach out to the customers and retailers. I think you could also just send like an informational note perhaps to the city managers, just to say, here's the series of workshops that the board will be going through, and then that way at least it's out there for them. I like it, if you let the Water Association know. And social media is fine, and maybe, I don't know how often our newsletter goes out to our constituents, if it's a quarterly or every 2 months, I really don't recall at this moment, but maybe that's a snippet to include in the e-blast that goes out among other news items.
Typically they're quarterly, so I can see, I don't know when the next one is scheduled, but we can see if that's there, and if not, then perhaps it's a standalone notice that goes out.
Great. And the only thing else than this, because I know that we're trying to get these dates. I mean, I'm good with these dates right now as far as for me. But we probably need to put this as like an information item or something to talk about the full board meeting, just to make sure that all 5 of us are okay with these dates. And or maybe we can also get the ENO situation resolved at the board meeting for a change if we need to or something. Right? Is that unreasonable?
I mean, again, if ENO is scheduled to be on that day, we can certainly.
We can move that committee, of course.
Either way,
Right?
and again, if I will say though, on April 12th, it is scheduled to start at 3 p.m. So I do believe this will be a greater than 2 hour conversation, or I believe it should be greater than a 2 hour conversation. So we make sure that we're fully sharing out, if you will, the level of detail and having that engaging conversation around the policy questions that I had shared with you. What are we doing about conservation and, and investments and financial metrics and the drivers, if you will, to the budget. And so again, it may take us beyond the scheduled time of 3 to 5.
That's what I wouldn't want to do, is put this ahead of another meeting and then it goes longer potentially. So something for us to consider. But as far as the calendar goes, I'm okay with this, but I think Director Williams, I mean, do you think we should just talk about this at the board meeting as an information item to make sure everyone's okay with these dates and thoughts?
Yeah, that's fine to me.
So yeah, let's just move it forward to board agenda.
Yeah, I think that would be good, just so that we can make sure that we get to a final schedule. Because again, we want to make sure that we are meeting the needs of that and are not conflicting or shortchanging ourselves when we have conflicting schedules.
No, not at all. And if we decide by the end of the month, till the 15th is your first one, of next month, then that still gives you plenty of time. Even now, you can start planning ahead, but it gives you plenty of time to be prepared for the potential.
And if I may recommend, perhaps maybe we start pulling for a new date for April 12th, just on the off chance that we're not able to do so. So that again, we're not waiting 2 weeks in order to sort of schedule that, just so that we have an understanding of what those dates could look like, either for moving the committee, moving the board, a special board meeting workshop here that allows us to, again, be able to, be out there to communicate. I think, to get it out there sooner than later is a good thing. So.
I like that idea. So maybe, staff would do all, would pull the board just as a backup date for the workshop, or is the E&O committee willing and able to change out their dates, the 12th day? We got 1 out of 2 so far, but anyway, I like that idea to be ahead, because what would be ideal is by the time, let's say we talk at our meetings, I think, is it the 27th? 7th, so we could try and have the dates pretty firm on the calendar, so that way, for your outreach purposes, you can get that out, knowing that there's always a chance something gets changed, but, we want to be upfront.
Correct. And in our draft letter that we had with the original dates, we had indicated that there's could be subject to change. But that said, we want to be as certain as we can, because that is what's going to have engagement there from our community, from our customers, and from the board, of course, as well.
Very good, very good. I just, and I really do agree with what Director Williams said. I mean, look, once we get the date set and we know when we're going to be here, and hopefully the retailers will at least, they know about it, of course, but they might, want to sit on the call or come down to the office and be here, because that's our job, is to make sure they understand firsthand what's being relayed, let alone the decision-making process that we're going through. So the more information, the better. And so let's do that. Let's put on the information calendar for brief discussion on the 27th to try and get the dates nailed down. And the great thing too is we still have latitude that if we need to throw something in later, like we're going through those workshops and we need to have something else in that May timeframe, even going into June, we still have that opportunity. So I'll say thank you for staff being very flexible with it. Looking forward to the first one though, again, to get this going. Yeah. All right, so with that, we're done with that item, correct?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Good. Okay, thank you. So Greg, we will go to item 6D, as in dog, which is the monthly financial report.
Yeah, that's great. And so we have Sandra Ruiz here with us, our accountant, alongside Marianne Rexroth, our manager of finance, to give our monthly financial report. So Sandra, Marianne, please.
Thank you, Greg. Good afternoon, Chair Houston, members of the committee. And as Greg indicated, it'll be a tag team this morning with myself and Sandra. So I'll just kick it off and then we'll move into those reports. So I'm starting on page 129 of your packet.
Can you speak up a little?
Sure. I'm on page 129 of your packet, item 6D. This is the monthly financial report. This is per your admin code, does require staff to present each quarter, or excuse me, each month, various reports. And of course, there are the 4 reports that we'll go through. I'm going to hand off the first report to Sandra, which is your monthly demands. Sandra, take it away.
Directors, I will be presenting 6DA, starting on packet page 131. This is your demands list for the month ending January 31st, 2023. The report ends on item page. Your attention to the total for the month. Total expenditures for the month were $19,200,81.41. I will point out that on that page, you will see we had our bond payments, which total $4,623,399.57. This is a semi-annual payment, and this payment is interest only. Next payment will be coming out for July and August, and that will include interest and principal. But for this, interest. The next highest expense for the month was our bill to Metropolitan Water District, and that was $10 million. So those two expenditures totaled about almost accounted for more than half of the total expenditure for the month, which was about $14 to $15 million. So those are the two main items I wanted to point out for this report. We'd be happy to answer questions if you had any.
Any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, any questions for Director Deere or Director Gray?
No, thank you. No,
I
thank
just had, oh, thank you, Director Deere. I had one quick question I just noticed with right on the first page, 131, there's contract labor with Apple One Employment, which was almost $5,000. Just out of curiosity, what is that exactly?
Right now, Pi has a contracted employee, Daniel Burton, who is helping out.
Okay, so let's do that. Got it. Is there anything else on here that was out of the ordinary that you think we
I
should
didn't
notice?
notice anything, Erin.
None.
All right, thank you very much. We'll go on to the next portion.
That's your cash and investment report. That begins on page 137 of your packet. And I'll be reporting on this item. As I mentioned, this is a cash and investment report. This is as of 1/31 of 2023. We have total market value of 73 million. This is slightly down from prior month where we had 76.3 million. But as you heard Sandra report out that we did make our semi-annual interest payment on our bonds, so that reduced our amount of our cash investments. Other than that, I can share with you moving down to page, let's go to page 38. And that shows a comparison of your quality of your portfolio. As I mentioned in the past, we do have a quite high quality portfolio. And then moving down to page 139 is the report which shows our maturity of our distribution. Again, we do keep quite a large amount in the liquid area. As again, Sandra did mention, we do have another payment coming up, which will be probably in the tune of over 16 million for our debt coming up. So we do want to have those cash on hand. Moving down to page 140, these are the transactions for the month. And there you'll see our acquisitions and our dispositions. Nothing unusual there. On the acquisitions, we did purchase an investment that has a little bit longer of a duration. And you can see the maturities in 2027. So this will lengthen our duration of our overall portfolio just a bit. And then moving down to pages 141 through 149, this is all of the holdings that your cash investment report has, and it's broken down by the type or description of each of one of those assets. So with that, I'll just pause and see if you have any questions on our cash investments.
No, thank you.
Questions? And we'll move forward.
Okay. We'll move on to our water sales. Last month when we were producing, earlier this month, we were producing the water invoices. That was on the 10th, and that's when the packets had to be sent out. So you have a handout in front of you. If I can ask you to turn to the handout itself, and I'll just run through these numbers. Okay, starting with I don't have a page number to go to, but the first of the two pages of the handout, this is your monthly water sales through January of 2023. And I'm going to highlight January for the imported retail. You'll see that we were down from both the perspective of last fiscal year as well as for the current fiscal year. We had 6,000 acre feet for the month of January as compared to a budget of about 7,200. That's about a 16% drop. So again, conservation messaging is working, but we also had a lot of rainfall during the month. In fact, we had almost 9 inches of rainfall in the month of January versus January 22, which was not even an inch. In addition to it, temperatures have been a lot cooler. Our average temperature last year in 22 was about 64 degrees. I'm sorry, the high, where the high was 69 degrees, and the high temperature for the month of January of 23 was just 64 degrees. I think all those items added to the fact that we had lower than what we budgeted sales and lower than last year. So moving on to the year to date, you'll also see that trend continue. For the 21-22, we had 61.5 thousand acre feet, where now we're at 55,006. So again, a healthy drop of about 10%. And again, comparing to budget, again, another almost 10% drop from budget to actual for fiscal year 22-23. Moving down into your imported barrier sales, you'll see that at the bottom of the page, we had about 600, almost 700 acre feet of sales for the month of January as compared to a budget of 558. So we're trending a little bit better there for the month. However, year to date, we are still below what we budgeted. We have a budget of 3908 and we are at 2961. So if I could then maybe move on to the next page, which is your recycled water sales. The month of January, we did exceed last fiscal year. However, we did not exceed the budget for the current month of January. We can talk about the particulars in a few months after we get to that table. But I just also want to point out on a year-to-date basis, we are obviously trending more than last fiscal year, but we are down about 1,400 acre feet from the budget, or about 7%. Moving down to that first table, this is highlighting the month of January. We did receive some very poor quality water from Hyperion for the month. And so you'll see that reflected in the numbers. We were below budget on just every area, barrier, refineries, and the disinfected tertiary. I understand that water quality, that poor water quality has continued into the month of February. It did force us to have to purchase potable water and have that blended into both at the Torrance refinery and at the Carson facility as well. Moving down to your year-to-date through January, again, with the barrier, we had been ramping up to hopefully get close to that budget, but unfortunately, as I mentioned, with the poor quality coming in, we had less production for the month of January. And then on the refineries, we're still trending better than budget, which is good news. And disinfected tertiary, we're just under budget as well. So with that, I'll just pause and see if you have any questions.
Any questions? No, thank you. Questions, Director Deere or Director Gregg?
Nope.
Quick question.
No, thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Gray. Quick question, Mary Ann. So which months was it that had poor water quality coming in? Was December and January, or just January?
So January and leading into February, we'll probably see, lower numbers next month.
Anybody, and this is not, but does anybody know why that water quality went down the last month and a half, give or take? Right.
I don't have that at my fingertips, so I'd have to maybe bring that back, perhaps as an email response.
Yeah, that'd be great. Because to be honest, it's the first I heard about it. I don't know if they talked about it last month or what. I don't know, but more importantly, I was just at the plant the other day for that photo op with the grades of green, and the odor was really strong, stronger than normal, just standing outside coming in, and that's the water coming in from Hyperion. So again, I think it'd be interesting for us to know what transpired and what the solution is and how quickly they'll get it back going, because we're having to purchase imported water to meet our needs. So I'd like to hear staff, maybe yes, an email to us would be great.
Will do.
Greg. And again, it's affecting the sales, of course, but ironically, yeah, I was over there and it was really pungent. So I knew something was up. Okay. Anything else? on this one?
I'm going to turn it over to Sandra, who's going to finish off with the travel reports.
Okay.
Page 155, I'm presenting 6D. This is the direct expense. The total ending January 2023 is $22,582. Annual budget is 75,000, so the remaining balance is $52,417.24. Next packet page. Management and travel expense report, again for the period ending January 2023. Total amount is 55,279.04, and the annual budget is $100,000 with the remaining balance of $44,720 in annual fees. Any questions? Yes.
Nothing.
Any questions, Director Jeter or Director Greg?
Nope.
I just, if I may, I just, regarding the travel budget, I just want to acknowledge that, my practice is to not travel. However, I've been asked to travel in the upcoming period for the legislative visits to Sacramento and to Washington DC. And so with the board's, pleasure, I'm willing to do that if that's what the pleasure of the board is to do, for me to do.
Comment?
Hello.
Go ahead, Director Greg.
Yes.
Comment?
If we're discussing the trip to DC and Sacramento, I certainly think the general manager should be there because, as I understand, the purpose of these trips are really to educate our legislators about our priorities. And I think it's important for the general manager to be there to participate in that conversation and hear the feedback from our legislators. So my request is for him to travel with us.
Hey, thank you, Director Gray. And I, as the board president, have also said the same thing to our general manager, because usually it's customary the general manager, among maybe some other staff, does travel on the ledge trips. So I think it's always fitting, unless some terrible event came up, to hit our general manager with this. I completely concur with you, Director Gray. So I think, Greg, you're fully within the board we ask you to do as we plan the ledge trips.
Will do.
Great. All right, thank you. All right, so we are done with the monthly financial report, and I see there's no closed session items today. We'll move forward to director's comments and future agenda items. I'll start with our committee member, Director Williams.
All I have is a great report. Keep it up, and I know you will. And that's all I have. Thank you. Looking forward to the big ones.
Thank you. Director Gray, comments?
Only comments I have is thank you to the staff this morning and the general manager. Thank you for all the reports today. And to my fellow colleagues, thank you for your engagement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Director Deere, any comments?
Just to our finance staff, keep up the good work. Thank you very much. That's all I have. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. I will echo everything that's been said. So reports, good discussion. And I also want to say thanks to all the staff who are here in the room, of course, to present to us, even when Hazel came in to present. We do appreciate having you here rather than just online on that note. So with that, we have nothing else to discuss. So with that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.